Coming up on this episode of Earth, we show you what the future of green mobility looks like for our world when it comes to zero-emission cars, trucks, and even boats. And when vehicles reach the end of life, they may end up at the world's most environmentally friendly automobile shredder. We'll introduce you to biodegradable foam technology that is changing the environmental world of foam coolers. We'll show you how engineered steel pipes are conserving one of Earth's most valuable resources, and we'll take you to the middle of the desert, which is now an oasis for farming what could be the next generation of food. It's all coming up on Earth. Hi, I'm John Holden. Welcome to Earth. We're starting off our show here at the Port of Los Angeles. This bustling port is the crossroads for big container ships and bumper-to-bumper semis meeting to carry cargo. But this California port is also leading the way in what future green mobility will look like for our country when it comes to zero-emission cars, trucks, and yes, even boats. Let's take a look. California is well known for nonstop traffic and congestion, whether it be automobiles, trucks, or cargo ships. But it's also leading the way in its stringent pollution-fighting environmental programs for automobiles, semi-trucks, and the nonstop cargo traffic through its Port of Los Angeles.
We're the largest container port in North America, really in the Western Hemisphere. We move anywhere from 9.5 million to 10 million TEUs, that's 20-foot equivalent units on an annual basis. We believe here at the Port of Los Angeles that climate change is the single biggest environmental crisis facing the world today. We think that we have to do something immediately to reduce our carbon footprint and to make a transition to non-combustion-based engine technologies.
One of those new engine technologies for zero emissions being tested is hydrogen fuel cells, capable of creating electricity to power vehicles, leaving water as its only emission. That research to create a zero-emissions world through hydrogen cell research has been going on for decades at Toyota, including here at its R&D center in Gardena, California.
So the way that hydrogen vehicle works, if you can imagine an electrical vehicle, but instead of just using batteries, it's using a hydrogen fuel cell stack to produce the electricity on board. We believe fuel cell vehicles is the future, and we have many exciting products coming. Here we have the 2021 Toyota Mirai. This is our second generation Mirai. The second gen vehicle is rear-wheel drive. It's packaged in a way for the components to be having a low center of gravity. So we moved the fuel cell stack into the engine compartment, while the first generation, it was underneath the vehicle. I believe the future for us is to be able to drive this car across the country when we have a diversified hydrogen station network. And I would like to see hydrogen vehicles, not just in passenger vehicles and light-duty vehicles, but heavy-duty vehicles across the US.
Personally, my passion is to see sustainable technologies implemented in the future. I really believe that it's going to take a sort of variety of technology to achieve our goals as a society to reducing our carbon emissions.
The mayor of Los Angeles says that the 2020s are going to be the decade of action. Either we're going to say we did do something or we didn't do something about climate change, but we have to do something by 2030 or we may be at a point of no return for irreversible damage to this planet.
This is why the port has partnered with Toyota to also start testing that same hydrogen fuel cell technology in heavy-duty semi-trucks that carry those heavy containers at the port.
So we think hydrogen because it's scalable and it's also very good for large applications. So if you can put a fuel cell stack on the truck and store the hydrogen there, you can actually achieve those same fast fueling and long range and high cargo capacity you'd expect from a diesel truck normally.
It's awesome to know that you're driving something that is cleaner air. The only thing coming out of that truck, that tailpipe, is water on the ground.
And it's not just trucks and cars being powered by hydrogen today. Ocean vessels are too, including the very first hydrogen-powered ship to ever sail around the world. Powered only by the sun, wind, seawater, and hydrogen fuel cells, the Energy Observer is now on its 4th year of a 7-year voyage around the globe.
The mission is to showcase that smart grid, a complete smart grid from the drop of seawater to the propeller is a working system, that it is reliable, simple, affordable actually, that the technology today is mature, it's ready, it's not for tomorrow, I mean it's available now.
It's all about proving a cleaner world is possible by using renewable energies like hydrogen in our cars, trucks, and boats, so that we can all explore this good Earth without leaving a trace behind. Our next story takes us here to Becker, Minnesota. Now, even after a springtime snowstorm like this, it's still nice to walk outside and enjoy the wide open spaces and rural countryside. But this little town is also known for its unique ability to reduce and recycle metal. I'm not talking about any metal, big metal, like junk cars, buses, and metal scrap, thanks to the world's most environmentally friendly automobile shredder. Let's take a look. We all know how important metals, plastics, and materials are to society in our buildings, infrastructures, and automobiles. But what about when they reach the end of life? What's the answer to global eyesores like junkyards and metal scrap piles?
Versus putting it in a landfill or having it set around in the woods and rust out or be an eyesore. This is a process that can safely and environmentally process the material and put it back to a new use.
One company is reimagining the traditional metal recycling industry to support a more sustainable future. EMR has 130 locations around the world, with around 60 in the USA. But one of its most unique locations is here outside Becker, Minnesota, a small town that is now known for its monster appetite for recycling metal. That's because here on 26 acres of land in rural Minnesota sits one of the largest shredding facilities in the United States, with the most advanced emission control equipment in the world.
This would be the first ever of its kind in the world to have this type of metal shredding facility. This facility is capable of bringing all of the air out from the processing facilities and takes all of the particulate matter out of it and burns all the gases off before any of the emissions leave the facility.
What we've done here is we've put this shredder inside its own enclosure with its own pollution control systems that make this the cleanest shredder in the world.
That monster appetite for metal comes from this beast, an 8,000 horsepower mega shredder standing 6 stories high, 2.5 million pounds of steel, capable of taking a car, crushing it within seconds.
So a shredder this size is able to do about 400 tons of steel per hour, which equates to about 6 cars per minute. Tremendous appetite for recyclable materials.
The important thing about cars is there really is never really an end of its life. About 85% of the cars are recyclable at the moment, so we're able to take that car and kind of give it a fresh start. We can remove up to about 85% of the cars, so both the ferrous, the steel, the copper, and the aluminum.
We put it on a conveyor belt that takes it in. We can take like a whole auto and shred it into pieces the size of your fist in just a matter of seconds. And it separates all the metal so we can send the metal off to mills to be remelted, to be reused, to make bridges, new autos, anything that's made of metal.
Here in a control tower overlooking the shredding operation, behind banks of monitors, levers, and buttons, the technology and control behind this giant shredder lies at the hand of operators like Kyle Blomberg and Matt Poster, who say no job is too big or too small for the shredder to find value.
when you see a car just drop in and it's gone in like 2 seconds, it's pretty cool. It's a passion. It's passion coming in here for me every day. I start early, get out of here late, keep stuff out of the landfills, you know. The more we can recycle, the better off we all are.
All this metal shredding power is at the pull of a lever and the push of a button. They even offered me a chance to try manning the controls to show how easy it can be to totally shred a vehicle. That is, if you know what you're doing.
Like this?
No,
Okay, the other way?
Yeah, right, like that, yeah.
Okay, and then this one going up?
You got it.
Wow. You do feel like in control when you're sitting here. It's kind of like you're master of the universe or master of old cars.
So it's easy to see why this giant shredder is so valuable to our environment when it comes to the end of life for an old car. Rather than being left to rust in a scrap pile, the vehicle can find new life in a host of valuable and recycled materials.
I'm very proud of this facility. This facility is reimagining metal shredding of what we believe it's going to look like in the future.
EMR's goal is to be a net carbon zero by 2040.
So end of life does not necessarily mean end of value when it comes to metal in old vehicles.
It means even old wrecked junkers like this can still find new life ahead of it, thanks to monster recycling efforts on this good earth.
Our next stop, Belcamp, Maryland. You know, keeping things cool has never been more important. From food and drink to critical medical supplies, the traditional foam cooler has, well, been the standard for cold storage for decades. Until now, though, you'd have to sacrifice performance to achieve sustainability, but today that's no longer the case, thanks to biodegradable foam technology. Let's take a look. The foam cooler. It was fun and revolutionary back in the 50s when consumers celebrated single-use plastics as being the future of convenient living. But the problem was the foam cooler was not biodegradable within our human lifetime, causing endless waste and filling our landfills. Today, it's still as important as ever to keep things cool, but times have changed for both the foam cooler and our environment.
The cooler has changed quite a bit. I mean, the disposable picnic cooler that you would take to the park with you, before 10 years ago, the pressure would be to use a reusable Coleman cooler or something along those lines. But now, looking at disposable coolers that can really biodegrade and compost away is really how you take the sustainability but keep the convenience.
Today, especially during the pandemic, the average family is ordering much more food and medicine through the mail to their home. This trend to ship more is increasing, and one company in particular, LifeMade Products, has made its primary mission to improve the sustainability of packaging for future generations.
We feel a responsibility as a market leader to introduce sustainable alternatives to single-use plastics. And what we can't sacrifice is performance. The products that ship in our containers are life-saving vaccines and drugs, and they require very tight tolerances and temperature control. And up until now, in order to get a sustainable solution, you needed to sacrifice performance. And we're pretty happy to be able to introduce products that allow you to have both.
Here at LifeMade's 170,000 square foot facility in Belcamp, Maryland, constant testing and material research is underway to create sustainable products that show performance is possible with environmentally friendly materials. From earth-friendly straws that can be composted right at home to unique Earth in Mind sustainable cutlery that is disposable and biodegradable, to the new EnviroCooler EVG.
Yeah, the EnviroCooler EVG has been a great innovation. It allows something that wouldn't degrade in our entire lifetime and compressing it to under 4 years by giving it the tools it needs internally to degrade itself inside the active landfill.
This concern for sustainable shipping is also invading the highly regulated world of healthcare packaging as the world's top vaccine companies strive to quickly distribute safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines to patients worldwide. They're also looking for a sustainable cold chain solution.
Been a lot of research on the material science to make sure that this material is as sustainable as possible and that we understand the sustainability and exactly how it happens in the landfill. But the performance of it can't be compromised. These are regulated shipments that have to be kept at very strict temperatures. So the temperature chambers behind me are mimicking the environmental conditions that they might be exposed to make sure that they have enough performance and a repeatable performance.
This includes companies like Kemp Proteins in Frederick, Maryland, which ships critical proteins for COVID-19 vaccine research. Its recent decision to switch to the EnviroCooler for shipping proteins has helped Kemp reach one of its top environmental goals.
Looks to us that it's reducing our landfill impact by about 83% by switching. I mean, as scientists, we're always looking for ways to improve the world, and our feeling is that switching to this was an easy decision. It was immediate. It had a reduction in our environmental footprint almost immediately, so we were quite happy to make that switch.
And the latest innovation from LifeMade in environmentally friendly coolers? The EnviroCooler BioFX, the most sustainable material ever for a molded foam cooler. Biodegradable in days instead of years.
We have been working on it for a number of years, so about 7 years in fact. It is very exciting. So this is 100% bio-based composition, and it degrades in a compost within 2 weeks. So it's revolutionary in that way. It is all about the performance of this material.
It takes 90% less water to produce these products, about half the energy consumption, and about 95% less greenhouse gas produced in the process. So not only is the end product more sustainable, but the way that we make it is as well.
So what's cooler than being cold? Being environmentally conscious, with a choice in how we store the food, drinks, and medicine that we use every day. It's all about, well, storing a cleaner place on this earth for future generations to enjoy. Our next story takes us here to northern part of Texas. Like many parts of the country, this area of rising population also means a surging demand for water. And that means huge investment in the pipes needed to carry that water across the country is needed as well. Let's take a look. Today, the demand for water has never been more critical. But for decades, there's been a substantial underinvestment in pipelines and needed water infrastructure.
Fresh drinking water obviously is what sustains life. And we live in some of the fastest growing, we serve some of the fastest growing cities in the United States. And so constantly on the lookout to keep ahead of that growth.
Much of our drinking water infrastructure in the U.S. was built in the mid-20th century with an expected lifespan of 75 to 100 years. It'll take an estimated 200 years to replace the aging system. But a host of huge water supply projects are currently underway that are safeguarding the transportation of safe water supply in North America.
We have a 280-mile, 48 and 42-inch project going for the Navajo Nation, or Navajo Gallup project as it's called, funded by the Bureau of Reclamation. We've worked on canal enclosure projects, which involve a 126-inch pipe enclosing over 20 miles of canal in Utah.
Each of these pipeline projects is being supported by Northwest Pipe Company, the largest manufacturer of engineered steel water pipe systems in North America. As one of Earth's most recyclable materials, steel is an ideal component for a new water pipeline or to replace an aging system. So Eric, when it comes to pipes carrying water, why steel?
Steel's been around for over 150 years. Today, the product has only gotten better with better coating systems, easier installation, and when you put 200 million gallons of water through that pipe a day, you have 200 million gallons leaving that pipe. There's no loss.
Here at its Saginaw, Texas facility, one of 10 Northwest pipe manufacturing facilities in North America, constant innovation in pipe design is underway. Unlike iron or plastic pipe material, Northwest Pipe manufactures each piece of steel pipe to be part of an engineered system designed specifically to a project's performance requirements or site conditions.
We don't just sell just plain straight pipe, we actually sell an engineered product. So all the elbows, outlets are all produced before the pipe goes out to the field.
These are engineered systems. We produce them to the specifications that the owner and the engineers require. So it's very important that we get it right and we do it right.
Just as the ancient Romans constructed aqueducts to bring in outside water, the water pipeline industry may seem unchanged over the years, but the engineering team at Northwest Pipe is bringing fresh ideas to a timeless industry, including seismic resilient joints for steel water pipe, designed to endure a seismic event like an earthquake.
The major concern with an earthquake with buried pipe is that you're going to get what's called permanent ground deformation. In other words, the ground is going to permanently shift. You're going to have like landslides or liquefaction, or you're going to have a big compression area, and the pipe is going to try and move with the ground. And so the big thing that you're concerned about is that you're going to deform the pipe to a point to where it will rupture. And with the InfraShield joint, we believe we've designed a joint that will take that kind of movement and still maintain the flow to the critical infrastructure after an event.
One such innovative project is happening here in North Texas, near the town of Leonard, where Northwest Pipe has manufactured over 22,000 tons of engineered steel welded pipe to bring water from a water treatment center to 80 communities across this growing region.
Well, this is a big project. I mean, the total system is 60 miles of 84-inch and 90-inch pipe. It's a big job for Garney. It's the collaboration on the front end of the project, working together to design a system that, there's a lot of things. There's the engineering of the system, but then how does it get designed and built so it can be installed effectively and safely. And those are just as important as the actual design of the system. And Northwest Pipe works with us on that very closely.
This is a landmark project. This is the first reservoir that has been permitted in the state of Texas in about 30 years, and that's what makes it significant.
Constructing pipelines is expensive. Steel offers a great life cycle. Well, we offer a product here that delivers that through engineering practices. Higher performance coatings, better steel, better lining systems, all to address the needs of that project.
No matter where these steel pipelines actually carry the water, we all have a role in moving and conserving one of Earth's most natural resources. Safe water really determines the quality of life on our planet. Our next story takes us here to the desert of New Mexico, near the border town of Columbus. This is as far away from the ocean as you can get. But this dry desert land has also become an oasis for the future of farming and for food. How is that possible? Let's take a look.
Our global population is growing by leaps and bounds, predicted to hit 10 billion people by the year 2050. This is placing a huge strain on our agricultural land resources to produce food, as well as our freshwater and ocean resources.
So to meet those demands that this new population is going to have, we're going to have novel agricultural practices to provide new food sources. And so those food sources need to be novel in the way that they're not going to be competing with arable land that's already overstretched, and also not competing with freshwater sources that, again, are also scarce.
One of the answers may lie here, in the middle of the hot, dry desert of New Mexico, atop a saltwater aquifer, where Miguel Calatayud, farmer and entrepreneur, is leading iwi, a plant-based protein and supplement company that has reinvented a whole new way to farm non-arable land, to grow nutritious protein from sea algae.
The strain of algae we use is coming from the North Atlantic Ocean, and it needs salt, and it needs a lot of sun. And being in the middle of a desert like the New Mexico desert or the Texas desert is the perfect location because of the hours of sun, the number of days of sun, access to salt water, and we are insulated enough in order to have the perfect crop with a high quality food safety for our customers.
overseeing dozens of acres of saltwater algae ponds in the deserts of New Mexico and Texas. Iwi is able to grow this microscopic protein sea plant that is the source of omega-3 far away from the ocean. A super vegetable that can be sustainably grown in the desert year-round, using only recycled salt water and Earth's energy.
These ponds are operated by a single paddle wheel, and so you can see that spinning behind us here. That's ultimately the only force that's going to be moving our water through these ponds. And then when we go to harvest these systems, we actually do everything using the force of gravity, which allows us to really reduce our electricity inputs. And so everything from here to the harvesting system is driven by gravity once we start harvesting.
What people don't know is that fish and krill do not really generate any omega-3 fatty acids. They obtain it through the algae that they eat. So algae is the original source of those omega-3 fatty acids. So we skip the middle fish, we go straight to the source, we go to the algae.
Unlike traditional crops, which might only be harvested once a year, a pond of algae can be harvested as many as 2 or 3 times a week. The dried marine plant can then be transported in containers to be extracted for use in food additives as well as supplements designed to reduce cholesterol and improve heart health.
People look at algae and don't think of it as a food that they would use to help their health, but it's something that we really find beneficial, and we have clinical studies and trials that prove that. So I think that it's something that's going to be great to help the future of food.
It's this concern for supplying alternative food protein, nutrition, and clean water for future generations that Miguel wants to educate and share the algae growing experience with his own children, 11-year-old Maria and 8-year-old Lucas.
I'm really proud of my dad because they're kind of doing the impossible, because a lot of people, they didn't think that they could do this with the algae, and they did it.
I've learned that we have to protect the planet and not waste fresh water, and we have to produce healthy food for us and for our planet.
It's all about developing sustainable farming methods and nutrient-rich food to feed and protect our planet. Algae could very well be one of the superfoods of our future. I'm John Holden. Thanks for watching.